The ceremonial hall of House Zirak glittered like a cage made of stars. Polished obsidian floors reflected the galaxy outside the vaulted windows, and glowing glyphs pulsed softly beneath Elias Rourke's boots as he stood alone at the center of the vast chamber. Around him, silent alien nobility watched from behind silver masks and crimson-trimmed robes, their judgment heavy in the air. At the far end of the hall, Baron Velzirak sat on his elevated throne, arms crossed, mouth curled in a smirk that didn't reach his sharp, colorless eyes. Elias had seen that look before, on soldiers who thought they'd won before the battle had even begun. This union, the Baron announced, is purely symbolic. A gesture of peace between your scattered Earth colonies and our dominion. Think of it as ceremonial goodwill. He paused, letting the insult settle. Elias didn't flinch. A marriage, even as a symbol, carries weight where I come from. Charming, the Baron drawled. Then let us begin. The tall doors creaked open. Elias turned. She entered in silence. Lady Kaelira, draped in silver that shimmered like ice under moonlight. Her skin glowed with an ethereal hue, like it absorbed starlight. Her expression was unreadable, too trained, too still, but her fingers trembled as they gripped the folds of her gown. Eyes like pale violet glass locked with Elias's, and he recognized something in them. Not pride. Not power. Fear. She looked young. Younger than he'd expected. Barely more than 20 in human terms. She wasn't walking to a marriage, she was being walked to a sentence. As she reached the center of the room, she stopped beside him. She didn't meet his gaze again. The priest figure stepped forward, chanting a blend of Terran English and ancient Archon dialect. Elias barely heard the words. His attention stayed on her. Her breathing was shallow. Her jaw tight. He had two options: follow the formality, say nothing, and let this farce unfold. Or do something no one expected. He turned to her. I'm Captain Elias Rourke of Terran Command, he said, gently enough that it wouldn't echo across the chamber. Do you want this? Kaelira blinked. No one had asked that. Not once. It doesn't matter, she whispered. It does to me. A beat of hesitation. Then, very quietly, she said, I don't want to be thrown away. That was all he needed. The priest finished. Elias stepped forward, not to kiss her hand or speak vows, but to kneel. A gasp rippled through the nobles. Even the Baron straightened in surprise. Elias dropped to one knee, bowed his head, and extended his hand to Kaelira. Then let's leave with your dignity intact. For the first time, her lips parted, not in fear, but in confusion. Then, slowly, she placed her hand in his. The priest looked lost for a moment, then declared the rite sealed. The crowd murmured. Elias stood and escorted Kaelira toward the docking chamber, his hand warm over hers. Behind them, the Baron didn't speak. But Elias felt his fury like static in the air. Their quarters aboard the Terran diplomatic ship were quiet. Sterile, functional. Elias deactivated the security drones and poured 2 glasses of water. She hadn't spoken since they left. Kaelira, he said, placing one glass near her. This wasn't a trap. Not from me. She remained standing, staring out the viewport at the stars. I'm not naive, she replied. My father doesn't give things away. He gives messages. I was the message. Elias watched her closely. He wanted to humiliate me. And to be rid of me. Why? She finally turned. I can't bear children. My line ends with me. A broken heir has no place in the House of Zirak. Giving me to a human? It's the cruelest solution. A spectacle. He didn't react. Just sat, hands folded. You're not a thing to discard. No. I'm a relic to erase. She took the glass, sipped, then sat opposite him, almost carefully, like the chair might collapse under the weight of her shame. Her shoulders slowly loosened. You didn't touch me during the ceremony, she said quietly. Not even to seal it. I won't touch what isn't mine to hold. That surprised her. They told me humans were primitive, she said. Violent. Weak. They never said you had restraint. We're all made of stories, Elias said. Sometimes we just get told the wrong ones. She didn't smile, but the silence between them softened. I'm not here to own you, Kaelira. I don't care what your father wants. But if you want peace, if you want a life not written for you, I can offer that. No vows. No demands. Just a clean start. She stared at her hands. Would you protect something broken? She asked. Elias leaned forward, voice low. I don't think you're broken. I think you're afraid someone will see how strong you are. For a moment, the mask she wore, the still, cold shell, cracked. I'm not used to choices, she said. You have one now. They sat there in silence as the stars drifted by. Neither spoke again that night. But as she finally lay down in the guest bed, Kaelira pulled the blanket tight and whispered to herself, as if tasting the words for the first time. I wasn't given. I was chosen. And for once, she didn't feel entirely alone. Kaelira stood barefoot in the ship's observation chamber, bathed in soft starlight. The glass dome stretched above her, revealing the swirl of cosmic clouds outside. Her fingers pressed gently to her abdomen, though there was nothing there to feel. She wasn't cold, but she shivered. Behind her, the door opened with a quiet hiss. Elias entered, carrying 2 ceramic mugs. Mint tea. Human custom for sleepless nights. She turned slightly. Do all human rituals involve drinks? Most. The rest involve music or bad decisions. She accepted the mug, cradling the warmth. Elias leaned against the edge of the table, watching her not with curiosity, but patience. She appreciated that. Since leaving the Archon station, no one had stared at her like an object. Especially not him. Do you sleep well? He asked. She hesitated. There's silence here. But it's not empty. It's peaceful. That was the idea. Thought you could use a break from the politics. She sipped, eyes on the galaxy. My father used to say silence was for the weak. Words win thrones, he'd remind me. Quiet loses power. She paused. He never let me be quiet. Not once. Elias didn't respond. He didn't try to fix it either. That was new. Why did you kneel? She asked after a moment. In the hall. Because you looked like you were drowning. She glanced at him. I've never seen anyone kneel before me, not even servants. It was disarming. Good. You needed to know you weren't being offered like cattle. You deserved a choice. She stared at her tea. I didn't even know what choice felt like. Days passed in calm, steady rhythm. Kaelira wandered the ship, asking questions about Terran art, gravity systems, even food replicators. She was drawn to anything unfamiliar. Elias answered without condescension. He didn't talk down to her, though she knew more languages and sciences than most Terran officers. He treated her as if her curiosity was sacred. She'd never been treated like anything sacred before. One evening, Elias found her in the gym, standing beside a sandbag. She was staring at it like it might attack. Want a lesson? He offered. She nodded without a word. They began with basic stances. She learned quickly, graceful, calculating, every movement precise. She was a dancer, not a brawler, but there was steel in her bones. He saw it. Don't anticipate, Elias said. Feel the moment. I was engineered to anticipate, she replied, striking again. It's how I survived him. The blow landed harder than expected. The bag swung wide. They stood in silence for a breath. That's the first time you've said it, Elias said quietly. Said what? That your father hurt you. Her expression didn't change. But her voice lowered. He hurt everyone. I just learned not to scream. Elias didn't push. Just handed her a towel. You're not property anymore. Then what am I? He met her eyes. You're free. Later that night, she knocked on his door. She wore a loose white tunic borrowed from the crew's supply locker. Her hair was unbound, falling like liquid silver down her back. I couldn't sleep, she said. Elias stepped aside. They sat together on the edge of his bunk, side by side, neither touching. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Kaelira finally spoke. I was told I couldn't bear children. My father declared it publicly, said I was a dead end. Elias turned to her. I didn't care at first. It meant fewer expectations. But, sometimes, I dreamed of something small and warm, curled against me. Not for politics. Just, mine. She swallowed. When you offered me a new start, something changed. He was quiet. Then, Kaelira. I meant what I said. I won't touch what isn't mine. But if you ever wanted. She moved before he could finish, placing his hand gently over her heart. Her pulse was fast. Her skin warm. I don't want to be owned, she whispered. But I want to be held. Elias didn't speak. He simply drew her in, slow and careful, as if she might vanish. They lay together in silence later, her head on his chest, his fingers brushing lazy circles over her arm. There was no hunger in it. Just stillness. Connection. What does this mean on Earth? She asked. That we're together. Not for an empire. Not for show. For each other. Yes. She pressed closer. Then I choose that. The following morning, Kaelira stood at the mirror, fingertips grazing the collarbone where he'd kissed her. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't afraid. In the reflection, she saw a woman, not a bride, not a tool, but a person becoming whole. Her voice was firm when she spoke aloud, I choose this life. And for the first time, she meant it. Kaelira leaned over the basin, breath shallow, hands gripping the sink edge. The mirror reflected her pale face, flushed cheeks, and sweat-beaded brow. Her stomach clenched again, sharp and low. Elias's voice came through the door. Kaelira? You okay in there? She didn't answer immediately. The nausea had come in waves for 3 days now. At first, she blamed stress. Then, maybe unfamiliar food. But this morning was different, relentless, unmistakable. She turned the sink on and splashed cold water on her face. The mirror still didn't lie. Something was wrong. Or, something was happening. Minutes later, Elias stood beside her in the medical bay. She sat stiffly on the examination table, arms crossed. The AI medic hovered nearby, scanning her vitals in silence. Vitals elevated. Hormonal shift confirmed, the AI finally said. Initiating full diagnostic. Kaelira looked at Elias, her voice flat. I already know what it's going to say. Elias frowned. Tell me. She hesitated. Then, in a low voice, I think I'm pregnant. His mouth parted slightly, but no words came. He waited, hoping the AI would speak, because he couldn't. The scan concluded. The medical interface projected a 3D visualization, a faint heartbeat, tiny and flickering, nestled deep within Kaelira's abdomen. Confirmed, the AI intoned. Subject is approximately 6 weeks pregnant. Development appears viable. Kaelira stared at the projection. Her voice came out cracked. I was engineered sterile. This isn't supposed to be possible. Elias stepped closer, his hand brushing her shoulder. But it is. She turned to him, panic rising. You don't understand. If I'm pregnant, they'll come for us. Then we keep moving. No, she said sharply. You don't get it, Elias. This isn't just about a child. This threatens everything my father built. My infertility was his excuse to disown me, to erase me from the succession line. If I carry a living heir, especially with human blood, he'll see it as a threat to his entire dynasty. Her hands shook. He won't try to contain it. He'll cleanse it. Elias clenched his jaw. Then we don't let him find us. Kaelira laughed bitterly. He doesn't need to. I'm carrying a biological signal from his bloodline. He can trace me if he wants. Elias turned to the console, typing rapidly. How long until he finds out? Days. Maybe less. As if summoned by her words, the ship's comm system blinked red. A priority transmission was coming through, encrypted but unmistakably Archon in origin. Elias didn't answer it. Instead, he pulled Kaelira to the side. Do you trust me? Yes. I'm going to break every protocol we have to get you to safety. But you need to stay with me, no hesitation, no second guessing. She nodded once. Where will we go? There's a neutral system near the edge of Sol space. A Terran Alkari colony. Hidden, low traffic. No noble eyes. Another alert chimed. Then a second. Elias opened one. The holodisplay flickered to life. Baron Velzerak appeared in full regalia, his expression carved in disdain. To the Terran representative, and to the creature bearing my corrupted blood, he began, voice calm but poisonous, "You have violated a symbolic union with treasonous flesh. The Archon Dominion does not recognize hybrid abominations. I am invoking the purification mandate. Surrender the female for corrective reclamation. The child is not sanctioned." The message ended. Elias stood motionless. Kaelira's lips trembled. "He means to sterilize me. Wipe any trace of pregnancy. And then, he won't touch you. We can't run forever." "We don't need forever," Elias said, pulling up a map. "Just one jump ahead. That's all." The ship's AI cut in. Archon cruiser entering scanning range. Estimated interception in 4 hours. Elias began plotting an emergency hyperspace route. He turned to her. "Kaelira. If you stay here, they'll erase you. If you come with me, there's risk. But there's also a future." She pressed a hand to her stomach, where life now bloomed impossibly inside her. "I choose the future." In the next hour, Elias disabled all tracking protocols, purged registry logs, and reprogrammed the ship's jump signature. Kaelira stayed quiet, working alongside him when asked, absorbing every step. The closer the Archon cruiser crept, the clearer her mind became. This wasn't about shame anymore. It was about survival. The Ari's voice returned. "Hostile vessel entering pursuit corridor. Weapons active. Launch now," Elias ordered. The stars twisted as the hyperspace drive engaged. In one lurch, the ship vanished into the void. As the tension in the ship dropped, Kaelira finally let herself exhale. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply reached for Elias's hand and held it tightly. And for the first time since she was born, she wasn't running from shame. She was running with someone, toward something worth protecting. The ship groaned under the stress of the emergency hyperspace exit. Elias steadied himself against the console as the stars slowed into fixed points. Kaelira gripped the rail, breath tight, eyes scanning the viewport. Outside, the Terran Alkari colony floated like a hidden pearl obscured in the radiation shadows of a dying white dwarf. "System reached," the AI announced. "No immediate hostiles detected." Kaelira sank into the co-pilot chair. She looked pale, not from fear but from exhaustion, physical and emotional. The growing weight in her womb, though not visible, was becoming very real. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll dock, hide the ship, and blend in. The Alkari are neutral, they won't answer to the Baron." She nodded faintly. But the ship's comms flared again. Unmistakable. An override channel. The Baron was back. "Don't answer it," Kaelira whispered. Elias looked at her. "He already knows we're here." The message played automatically. Baron Velzerak's face appeared again, but this time, his expression was not composed. It was burning. "You still run, Captain. How noble. How human. I am now invoking Section 9 of the Cross-Species Accord. That woman is still Archon property. And what she carries is classified under biological warfare. If you do not surrender them, I will engage." The image vanished. Kaelira turned slowly to Elias. "He's not bluffing." "I know." Elias walked to the comms panel. His voice, when he spoke, was cold steel. "You gave her to me. Your words, in front of witnesses. You called it symbolic, but it was binding under Dominion custom. You can't unwrite that. She was never yours to keep," the Baron hissed through the re-established feed. "She chose to stay. She doesn't know what she carries. That child will split bloodlines, dilute centuries of genetic discipline. Do you understand what that means to the houses?" "I do," Elias said. "It means your time is ending." The feed cut. Silence dropped like a curtain. Kaelira moved to him, standing close. "He'll fire on civilians. Then we make sure we're not here when he does." Docking with the colony was fast and clean. Elias activated a stealth field over the ship and led Kaelira through a narrow back corridor into the heart of the station. Alkari citizens, tall, soft-skinned, and jewel-eyed, glanced curiously but said nothing. A quiet corner apartment was provided by a sympathizer who owed Elias from a long-past mission. The windows opened to a black sky veiled in violet gas. Kaelira stood at the edge, one hand on her belly, the other resting against the window frame. "You've risked everything," she said softly. "For someone your people barely know. You're not someone." He stepped behind her. "I didn't fall in love with you because of your bloodline. I stayed because you never stopped fighting, even when they broke everything around you." She turned, her eyes shimmering. "I'm scared. So am I. But I don't regret it." Elias took her hands. "If we keep running, they'll follow. But if we stand, here, in public, with witnesses, they can't erase you without proving everything they're afraid of. Then let's end this." The next morning, Kaelira walked into the central square, draped in a flowing gown of deep sapphire that accentuated the faint curve now forming at her abdomen. The crowd hushed. Elias stood beside her in full diplomatic uniform. He didn't draw a weapon. He didn't need to. A massive cruiser decloaked above the colony, casting the city in shadow. The Baron's voice broadcast across all channels. "This is your last chance. Surrender her." Kaelira stepped forward. She didn't flinch. "This womb is mine," she said, voice echoing across the plaza. "This life inside me is ours. And if you try to erase it, the whole galaxy will watch you destroy your own blood to protect your dying hierarchy." The crowd stirred. Holorecorders activated. Alchemy guards stepped closer, not to detain her, but to observe. The Baron's voice faltered. "You would stand with a Terran against your own? I would stand with myself. For the first time in my life." A pause. Then a sharp, furious hiss. "So be it." Elias braced for weapons fire, but none came. Instead, the cruiser blinked, shimmered, and retreated. The broadcast ended. That night, the apartment was quiet. No sirens. No alarms. Kaelira sat on the bed, robe undone slightly, her fingers tracing the faint rise of her stomach. Elias knelt in front of her, listening. "What do you hear?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "A heartbeat. Small. Fast. Alive." She touched his cheek. "He'll come back one day. Maybe not to kill us, but to reclaim his legacy." Elias met her gaze. "He already lost it. When you chose me." They didn't speak after that. He rested his forehead to her belly. She closed her eyes, hand curled in his hair. No longer hiding. No longer running. Now, they were simply living. Together.